Welcome to the F4 podcast, where your hosts, Brian, Brooke, Charles, and Vanessa, discuss all things faith, family, friends, and fitness. What is F4? Sometimes it's a glimpse into how we navigate the world, and sometimes it's a deep dive into how we handle the four main areas of our lives. If you want to have a healthier relationship with God, family, friends, and yourself, this podcast is for you. Thank you for joining us as we unpack this episode.
Welcome to episode 10 of the F4 podcast. This is an exciting podcast because we are entering the double-digit mark for episodes today, and I get the pleasure of hosting. If we haven't met before, I'm Brian Marston, one of your F4 hosts, and I want to say that we have Brooke and Vanessa and Charles all hanging out with us today, which has been normal. So we look forward to what we're going to talk about today. But I want to thank you for listening and watching our podcast. And if you could follow us on Instagram, like and share the podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. We're on multiple platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Pocket, Radio Public, Breaker, Anchor, and YouTube now. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, you can send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, or via email at f4ncpodcast@gmail.com. I'm joined today by the people I already introduced. They're our F4 crew, so thank you for being here. And I want to say that we're going to talk about a pursuit that gets in the way of growth. And it's not inherently wrong, but everyone struggles with it. And it's a big hindrance to us growing. What is this pursuit that can hinder our growth? Well, it's spelled COMFORT. Yes, comfort. And to get us rolling today, I want to ask Vanessa a question. Vanessa, when you picture comfort, what do you see in your mind?
Two things actually come to mind for me. The first is a hug from Charles. And I don't mean just a hug like goodbye, see you later. I mean like the nuzzly kind where I get all up in his neck right there. It makes me really happy. And then the second thing is something that I think we're all going to be doing later. Sitting out by the fire pit, possibly with a blanket, an adult beverage, some s'mores material, good conversation, great company, super fun, and very comfortable.
Very good. Charles, I want to know how you'd answer this question.
So you notice she said fun. I
heard that.
Fun, right? Okay.
So comfortable and fun are kind of in the same ballpark for Vanessa.
Yeah, I don't know. So when I visualize comfort, I think about a gigantic bed, a huge one, with a huge fluffy comforter, and it's cold, and I can get under the comforter, and it's soft, and everything's soft, and I can just chill out and lay there and go to sleep. That's comfort to me.
That sounds really good. Now, when you nestle into Vanessa's neck,
we could do, well, never mind.
Brooke, how would you answer this question?
So I have a kind of a fluffy blanket that Matt got me for Christmas, and it's white and it's soft. And when I think of comfort, I think of having that blanket, being wrapped up in that blanket, fuzzy socks. Usually coffee is involved. I just think of being like warm and bundled up and cozy, and like the outside air being cool enough that all of that feels good, that I don't feel hot and sweaty. So those are the first things that come to my mind.
So you've been very happy with the weather changes this past week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, when the air is crisp and it's like, oh, I need to go get a blanket. This is the best.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's good. So the first thing I thought of was actually the Corona commercial the Find Your Beach. And there's now one with Snoop Dogg.
I thought that's the one that you were going to be talking about. Snoop Dogg walking around on the.
Yeah. Now, before it wasn't Snoop Dogg, but now it is Snoop Dogg. So I think about that commercial, not necessarily for me personally, but when I think about comfort, that commercial comes to mind because everybody seems comfortable. And they probably are because they're high.
Well, if Snoop's there, I'm sure it's just kind of par for the course.
Well, in that commercial, you can sort of hear the breeze and you hear the ocean.
Yeah.
Smell the skunk.
Yeah.
Why does it smell like skunk?
Gosh.
We're at the beach.
Sorry, didn't mean
That's
to
really
interrupt.
funny.
I mean, but if you're
Now
at
I'm
like
not comfortable.
South Myrtle Beach, I mean, that's normal. I don't know.
Probably. I'll have to look up that commercial. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you probably should. You should get out more. So I was thinking about that, but for me personally, I really am a lot like you. So I love it when it's cool and crisp outside. I don't like how summer feels. I do in certain instances, but predominantly fall and winter and getting to bundle up and drinking hot coffee, that feels very comforting to me. And then I also thought about like really big pillows, and I thought about May, who has like these pillow pet big things that Mia gets mad about.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called.
I just call them pillow pets. So I'm
Squishables.
I'm really impressed that you knew that. That's really good.
Parker has one, and I was getting subliminal messages also.
Yeah, I picked up on that. Okay, so
We do have a studio audience.
of one. So they're very captive right now, literally captive. So how would you guys define comfort?
Oh,
That
freedom
doesn't sound
from
comfortable.
freedom from stress or obligations or pain. Those are the things that come to mind of definition of comfort.
I can see that for you, and I know we've talked about temperaments here before. I think that definitely fits with your temperament. So you are a green. Yeah. Some people are like, what is that? We'll probably have to revisit that at some point.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's not going to make any sense to anybody but me, but when you unzip yourself and
Okay.
yeah, but that's it. She unzips herself. And then,
It's metaphorical.
yeah,
Right. I didn't think you had a zipper.
I know. Yeah, it's very strange. You can
I haven't
you
been
can
in the
explain this
basement
better.
with lotion or anything like that.
What is happening?
Now explain it.
This
You'll
has
explain
gotten
it
like
better.
TVMA
I know,
really
right?
fast.
I mean,
No.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, no, it's not that at all.
So sometimes if he's stressed out or struggling with something, I just want to like think more like a bat. You just like wrap him up all nice and
But she'll do it. She'll actually
Snuggly.
walk over and she has this look on her face and she'll unzip and
do like that.
she gets me in. It's good.
I learned something new about you guys.
There's nothing weird about it.
No, I'm picking up on that now.
Yes.
It's very non.
But at first I was like,
yeah, no.
Okay, is this like a dress or?
No.
I
Strictly
feel
metaphorical.
I'm enveloped and I'm just
There. Yeah.
comfort.
It's actually really, really sweet and kind. So I'm glad you clarified. I needed it.
How about you?
So I define comfort personally when I have circumstances the way I want them. So basically when my preferences are being met.
Got it.
Another way to say that is when I'm in control or feel like I am in control, which again goes well with temperament. And I found myself needing to not have it that way for me to grow. And it's been hard for me to get over that. but we'll get into that a little bit more here in a few minutes. So how about you, Charles?
Well, we've already done me.
Yeah,
I've
he
already,
did the zipper. He was the zipper.
Vanessa's the zipper. We haven't gone to Vanessa yet, though. I'm kind of interested to hear, though.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I was thinking that was Vanessa.
Yeah, no, that was me. That's mine. Maybe
Because
that
Vanessa
gives
was
her comfort,
involved.
too. I don't
Vanessa
know.
was involved in his
involved.
answer.
I was like, I'm so confused.
For me, it's some of what Brooke said as far as being free from stress. And it's also being free to be me. We talk about being comfortable around certain people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be around certain people, just when I feel free to be me.
So I would love for you to speak to that a little bit more. What does it mean to be free to be you?
If I have something that I want to say, I can say it without a filter. And I don't have to concern myself with possible repercussions of the lack of filter. And I don't have to worry about pleasing anybody else if I don't want to. If I want to, great. But if I don't want to, then that's a sign of me, being comfortable, not feeling like I need to.
Where do you feel that way the most?
Don't look at me.
Sometimes in the gym. Most of the time if I'm doing something with dogs, or if I'm painting, doing something with art. And also hiking, walking in the woods. I probably wouldn't care who was around. I would probably be the filters would go away out hiking.
Well, it's good we get to do that soon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of what you were talking about was not necessarily with people. So you probably get a lot of your expression out when you're by yourself.
Usually if I'm doing something with dogs, it's what I mean by that is training or something like that. And there usually are other people involved. The dog owners are usually involved in that. And hiking, I don't usually hike by myself.
Yeah, but you don't paint with anybody else around.
Oh, we've painted together.
Yes, we have.
Yes, you have.
But only a few times. She's painted way more without me. So
But I don't have to go seclude myself somewhere and hole up somewhere.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you said I don't paint with other people around.
Well, you typically don't.
Well, it's not necessarily on purpose. But not that people want to sit around and watch me paint either. Yeah,
Nope.
see?
So does she ever paint you?
No.
oh goodness.
No.
Just asking. What? Why are you laughing?
Oh.
You're making me laugh.
Oh, I got nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm going to segue to this question. Why do people shy away from being uncomfortable?
You're looking at me. Does that mean you want me to answer it?
If you want to.
I think people shy away from being uncomfortable because being uncomfortable is not as nice as being comfortable. It's not as fun. It's not as relaxing or peaceful. It's not as under control. It's not as safe. Like it's all of those things that we don't like as much. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody that's like, oh, please, let's do the thing that's going to make me the most uncomfortable. That's what I choose. Most people are going to choose the thing that feels safe, or if they feel confident in it, or it feels fun, or it doesn't feel risky. Because I I think probably there's a whole bunch of reasons why, and it would vary from person to person. But I think as a whole, people, it's just more enjoyable, and it's more, maybe there's some science. Maybe there are like serotonins and dopamine and all that stuff that happens when you're comfortable that isn't there when you're uncomfortable. The adrenaline that goes through you when you're uncomfortable maybe just isn't as pleasant as the other. But I'm not a science person, so I don't know. I didn't study comfort on the brain.
I'm sure that all of those hormones and chemicals come into play. But I think ultimately people don't like to be uncomfortable because it's very exposing.
Yeah.
When you are uncomfortable, you are exposed as far as how you deal with pain, how you deal with your emotions, how you deal with struggles, how you deal with being cold. It's exposing.
That's good.
Yeah, I didn't think
That was
about
a really
that.
good
But
answer.
yeah.
Good answer. Good answer.
I actually did write that down. So
You did?
yeah. Yeah, exposure. That
Yep.
was a big part of my answer. That's good.
What are you looking at me? It's my turn now. I can't follow
Perhaps.
that. I can't follow that.
Sure you can, because you're not afraid of exposure.
No. Of the four of us, I'm not afraid of that at all.
Hello, my name is Charles. We've just met.
Wow. No, I mean, I think for me, being uncomfortable causes a lot of things. It causes anxiety. It causes worry. It takes away my peace. It takes away my quiet. It makes things feel out of control. I don't know that I've ever said, hey, I'm going to be uncomfortable today. I think that's a fantastic idea. No, because it really, the exact opposite of everything that we think about as comfort is just gone. And I don't like that feeling. I typically don't do overly well. I do very well under stressful situations, but not necessarily exposed situations, I think is different. Situations where I can control, and it may feel kind of uncomfortable, to me are not as bad as when I can't control something and it's exposing, I guess, to your point. That's a great way to put it. Because exposing, to me, shows vulnerability, weakness, what I consider weakness, and that's when the anxiety kicks in, which I don't do well with.
So to give you credit, I mean, vulnerability is another really good word to use here, because it's another way to say exposure, but it definitely is. I'm glad you added it to the conversation, because I did not write that one down, but I think it's a huge part of why people are fearful to be outside of their comfort zone. So I wrote down fear of failure, maybe not looking good or being impressive, being out of control, which we've talked about, afraid of what others will think, and that tied into exposure. So I really do think there's a lot of reasons why people shy away from this. Would you agree or disagree with this statement that comfort is a trap? And then the subsequent follow-up to that is why or why not. So comfort is a trap. Disagree, agree. Why do you disagree? Or why do you agree? I'm going to roll that on the...
I think for me, it can be, but it's not always. So I think when you look to how we grow, and we'll get to this, more as we get into this, but I think you need a little bit of uncomfort at times to grow, but not always. I think if you're not ever comfortable and not ever resting, you can't continue to be you can't continue to push and push and push yourself to be uncomfortable all the time. I think at some point, at least for some of us, maybe not all of us, but I know for me, if I don't catch a break somewhere down the road from being really uncomfortable, I'm never going to reset and be able to do that again. I'll at some point just break down. And maybe I'm not being uncomfortable in the right way, but I think it can be a trap if you stay forever in that world where, and we all know people, I'm sure we know people that just go, I call them happy-go-luckies that never seem to have a care in the world. And they're probably comfortable all the time, and they never push themselves, and maybe they do, and I don't see it, but I'm thinking of people in my head that I'm like, they're the same that they were, 15, 20 years ago, because they're just happy, and that's great. But I think it can be a trap in that way, but I think there needs to be a break at times for me. That's just kind of how I process that a little bit.
I think that's a great perspective. How about you two?
When I first heard the question, I thought of this really strange phenomenon. When I was involved with search and rescue, we were taught how to deal with being a wilderness first responder, essentially. What to do when you come up on somebody that's injured or whatever. And we were learning about hypothermia. And people whose bodies are shutting down due to hypothermia will often strip naked. Their body tells them that they're hot. And so they will strip naked and shortly thereafter perish because they got comfortable.
So would that be unzipping at the wrong time?
It's a different kind of unzipping.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of science that goes into the hypothalamus gland and all of that with that. But that is a time when being comfortable
Would be a trap?
would be a trap, for sure. So, in everyday, normal life, I think Charles is pretty spot on. You need to know that you can be comfortable, and you need to be able to you need to know that you can retreat to a comfortable space or a comfortable person or something in order to reset sometimes, and not push yourself over the edge.
That actually is one of the things that I have to do mentally if I'm facing things that are challenging, like tasks or obligations or a season where there's a lot going on. I have to sort of reward myself with some comfort at the end. Like, okay, when I finish this task, this job, then I'm going to reward myself with 15 minutes to read what I want to read. Some sort of it becomes a motivation. The comfort at the end of it becomes the motivation to stick with the thing that is uncomfortable, that I'm not necessarily enjoying. Does that make sense? So yes, I'm pursuing comfort, but I'm not. I think if I was always just like, oh, I don't want to do anything, I'm just going to stay in bed all day because this is comfortable, and I'm not going to put my feet to the floor because that would require walking and I don't feel like it. I think that's different than, and to me, then yes, that's a trap, because then you just you become useless. You don't fulfill any kind of purpose with your life. And I think there are people that do get really stuck. And then I think that probably in some cases leads to being in a depressive state, and then it just becomes like a very negative cycle. And I can see where, you feel like you have no purpose, so you don't get up and you don't do things. And I'm not talking about clinical depression or any of that kind of thing. I'm just talking about regular old people just being unmotivated. So, not to be offensive or whatever, but
I'll be offensive.
So, but comfort is a motivator for me. So in that sense, it's not a trap, because it encourages me to keep going so that I can get to that comfort, that carrot dangling in front of me. Some people might want power or money or whatever. Me, that warm blanket, feet up, a book to read, like
Coffee.
That's the coffee, like that's the, I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Were you going to speak into that, Charles?
No, I think it makes perfect sense.
I really like the idea of the ebb and the flow, which I feel like you introduced really well. And then the idea that sometimes you can be deceived on what you really need, but then seeing it as a reward, seeing comfort as, hey, I know that in this season I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to experience discomfort, but I'm going to reward myself and to say, give myself permission to say it's okay to rest in what makes me comfortable. And in a lot of ways, like you talked about, Charles, replenish and to recapture energy, because anytime we pour ourselves out, we lose energy. And if we don't take the time to recapture it, we're eventually going to burn out. So really, I really liked what you said. Very good stuff there. I was also thinking, let me find out where I was. I lost my train of thought. Thank you. This is where readers may come in handy.
My eyes are still young enough to see your page.
I'm like, where am I? I'm an old man. I'm lost. So I also thought about when you were talking about the depressive state, and that you can get depressed by being in the same state and not really going beyond where you're comfortable. And I'm taking a course on counseling right now. And for people who are oftentimes stuck in depression, one of the things that the counselor that I was reading about talked about doing for these people was telling them or instructing them, encouraging them to go and do something for someone else, to serve someone else, to put something into action, which requires them to get outside of their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. But in doing that, they realize purpose, and it helps to oftentimes lift the depressive state when they're serving someone else. So it was instantly came back to my mind when you were talking. I really like what you guys had to share. You know, I have a tendency to be so achievement oriented, I can poo-poo comfort. And I really, in this moment, I saw how valuable you three were in my life, because you helped me be okay with it. Because I can really struggle with not being okay with it and feeling like I'm failing when I'm relaxing or choosing comfort. And I know that's not true intellectually, but it's like I forget. And it's like I've got to be here. I've got to be impressive. And so in a lot of ways, what you just shared was a little bit unexpected for me. And it was good for me personally. So thank you. Hopefully it'll be good for other people too. It's part of why we do this, right?
Right.
It's like,
That's the idea.
Aha. So how can the pursuit of comfort hinder growth? So you guys probably are better to speak to this than me, just based on what you just said. So have you seen that happen either in your life, someone else's life? You may have a good example.
Well, I can think about times for being where I have, for whatever reason, whole different times, different reasons, where I have felt more insecure or have maybe lacked some motivation due to feeling insecure or not really being sure which direction to go or whatever. Comfort is easy. So to just kind of stay in that comfortable place.
Yeah.
And because I don't have a problem with pursuing comfort, it can be easy for me to just be like, I walked to the kitchen. I will now reward myself with comfort, and I can reward myself when really I haven't earned it,
Yeah.
like what I was talking about before, like really earning that reprieve, like, this was really challenging. Now I'm rewarding myself. So then that can really hinder growth if I just stay kind of in that cycle of not wanting to do anything, not wanting to put myself out there or do something that feels risky or challenging. And like I said, that generally has come in seasons where I've had different kinds of insecurities for different reasons. That's the first thing I thought of.
It's good. How about you guys?
One of the first things I thought of was back when I had a kennel and I had a trainer who was also a good friend that worked with me, and he went away for a few weeks to learn this different method of dog training. Mm-hmm. And I was very uncomfortable with it at first. And he took it and ran with it. And I don't want to say we butted heads. It wasn't anything like that. He had a little work to do to get me to come around and see the value in what he was bringing to the table. But I was very comfortable with the way I had been doing things this whole time, and I knew I was very good at it. And then here now is this new way of doing it, and it's very different. And my dragging my feet, I eventually got on the bus, but I dragged my feet a little bit for a block or two.
It's a great visual.
So, yeah.
That's a good story. What would you say, Charles?
I mean, I think kind of what we've already talked about. I think if you just stay comfortable, it can be very easy, but then things stay the same, right? So, or at least you hope things stay the same. Inevitably, they don't. But in your mind, I think they do until they come crashing down, and then you're forced to be uncomfortable because that's just kind of how it works. But I think back to where, I had a decision to make 6 years ago at this point. I don't even know when it was, about, changing careers and doing what I felt like I needed to do. And it would have been completely comfortable and expected for me to stay in the field that I was in because I was, doing okay. And it would have been a way to stay comfortable. It would have been a financial comfort for us as a family. It would have been comfortable all the way around. And instead I chose to become, broke and pursue other things, which has pushed me out of my comfort zone tremendously all the time, but has caused tremendous growth, I think, in me. But I think when you want to stay comfortable and you don't see any reason to change, you just don't grow. I mean, you can say you do, but really it takes a lot to force you to grow. You think about like plants, for an example, that are forced to adapt because of lack of water or, too much sun, right? They're comfortable. They were comfortable before, but then something happened and now that you're not comfortable anymore and you're forced to adapt or you're going to die, right? Yep. So it's one of the two. So I think that's where comfort in general across the board kind of causes a problem and hinders growth. But you think about the trees that continually, like if they're not ever forced to grow, they don't grow. So here we are back at trees and ecology. I've been doing a lot of ecology stuff at school. So everything's in ecology. Ecology's in everything we do.
It sounds very earthy.
It is very earthy. The Bible's very earthy, but you don't realize it until you really start going down that road. And you're like, oh, that makes...
Well, we came from dirt.
Right.
So...
Good point. Yeah.
But God makes beautiful things.
Mm-hmm.
Out of dust.
Yeah. That should be a song. Oh, wait.
I could write it.
You don't want to be that fig tree that doesn't produce. That didn't work out well.
No.
Well, you think about the concept of reaping and sowing and the whole, like in scripture, farming is just it's a big deal. And so you almost have to understand that a little bit better to properly interpret scripture. And so I think it's good that you're getting into being more earthy.
Earthy. Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about CrossFit, because part of what we do here is talk about fitness.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we probably don't talk about it enough. It's our bodies are something we use every day. And so if they're healthy, it contributes to a certain quality of life. If they're unhealthy, it contributes to poor quality of life. But how does the discomfort of CrossFit help you personally grow and get better?
I went first last time. Okay, so I guess I'll go first again.
Well, you're the one who's experiencing this more than anyone, I think, of the three of us.
Now, were you uncomfortable
with
that
the silence? Yes, I was.
No, why were you uncomfortable with the silence?
Maybe because there was silence and also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eyeballs on me as well.
So then I have another question. What makes you uncomfortable about people looking at you?
Because I don't enjoy being the center of attention. So having there are people who love it, and they pursue attention with everything in them. I'm not comfortable that way. So that's why.
Which probably ties in well with your answer to this question.
Well,
Or at least it should, in my opinion.
I guess. So
I have a better answer. I'm just
why don't you tell me what my answer is?
Tell me what I'm thinking.
Tell me what I'm thinking.
Tell me what I'm thinking.
Jerky red.
No, CrossFit has, as crazy as it might sound to some people, it has probably been the single most important thing in my life to push me out of just all of the comfort zone, but the lack of growth that I think I would have been content with, but not really content with. Ultimately, it wouldn't have been something that caused me to feel fulfilled. But I thought when I read the question initially, the first thing I thought about was years ago when I was asked to do a recording that was going to be viewed publicly by lots of people. So again, being in front of other people and having yourself being recorded on a camera, like, it just feels vulnerable. It feels exposing. It's, you see all the things that you want to change. You hear all the things that you do that you're like, oh my gosh, that's so annoying. And here it is, and it's recorded, and for all eternity, people can just repeat. And here it is, just like, yeah. So it is very, and all of you guys have done that. So you know what I'm talking about when that red light goes on and it's, oh my gosh, I've got to say these things that I'm supposed to remember, and I know it, but my mind then just goes completely blank. But one of the very first times that I had to do that, I struggled with that feeling of insecurity as it got time to start. And then I just thought, okay, 3, 2, 1, go, which is like how we start every workout, because for whatever reason, you have all that anticipation and all of that, oh my gosh, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if this is too heavy. I don't know if I've chosen wisely. I don't know, I don't know. And then the clock starts and you've got to go. Like, there's no, because it doesn't do itself. So you just have to go. And I actually thought about that in that moment when I was doing a recording for something else completely unrelated. And after it was over, I thought, wow, just that every day, now I've got to go. I can't hem and haw about it anymore. Somebody else has started this clock and it's time for me to go. So that is one of those things that's helped me grow and get better, just because I have thought of it multiple times since then whenever I'm having to do something that maybe is uncomfortable. Just 3, 2, 1, go. And most of the time, things are not as bad as the anticipation of the thing. So dropping your kid off at college, all of those things are generally not as bad as the anticipation, even though I still didn't like that. I didn't like it more before it had happened because I was worried about what it was going to be like on the other side. So
let me ask you about that. And we're going to go off-road a little bit here, but dropping your kid off at college.
Yeah, don't make me cry, please. I'm sorry. Ask your question.
Whoops.
I'm throwing away the thoughts that are in my head when you say, don't make me cry, because
Thanks.
all these songs are in my head, and I'm throwing them to the side.
Thank you.
So I was part of that experience. And I know what you were feeling based on what you expressed prior. Mm-hmm. What?
She's going to cry.
Here it comes.
She's going to cry.
One more word is all it's going to take.
Okay, so we had the opportunity to see him yesterday. We got a chance to go up to Boone for the second time since we dropped him off, because he invited us to come up and meet his new lady friend.
Yes.
Based on when we dropped him off in early August to now we're in late September, would you say that you have seen a positive change in him that makes that feel a little bit better, that you were okay and allowed him to go? Like, not that you could have like, you can't go,
Right,
but
right.
do you find yourself going, this really was good, even though it was hard?
100%. He is doing great. I think it has been a great experience for him. Yes, I think it's wonderful. When we went into Publix last night and you didn't go in and I came back out to the car, I still cried from from the door to the car. So here I am crying, but I got it together by the time I got in the car. So
Yeah, I
cried less than...
I was thinking, man, she's not even crying.
And that's because I did it all in the parking lot with all the strangers, from from the door to the...
They're like, man,
far
what's
out.
wrong with that lady?
Just the grocery experience was not a pleasure this time. So,
That was good.
but
That was a good one.
thanks. But no, CrossFit really has helped, and even right now, really pushing to see how well I can do, this spring or the end of winter, whatever. I don't know what month, February and March season is in. Anyway, having eyes on me, having people know that I'm pursuing something, it is not comfortable for me, but I'm trying to learn to be okay in that because I am seeing growth as a result of it. So, and then that's exciting. I mean, that part of it is fun. It is really fun to, even just a few weekends ago, to do a competition and be out there performing individually by myself without somebody else's work getting credited to me. Like, all that was credited to me was what I did or didn't do. I didn't love how that felt. But again, once I was going, I wasn't thinking about that anymore. And then really enjoyed the way that I felt afterwards. I was proud of the effort that I put in, and that's kind of nice to walk away from a situation and be able to be proud of it. And I wouldn't have experienced it if it wasn't for CrossFit. So
That's good.
my answer was way too long. It's somebody else's turn.
Yeah, I'm going to have to mark.
way too
I'm
long.
about to mark off.
Mark off, yeah. Monopolizing the show.
Yeah.
You think it's all about you?
It's supposed to be all four of us, but I guess not. It's all about Brooke again.
See, and that's what I do not like. So
Is-
here we
is-
go.
It's like your personal fan.
Why are you laughing? This is not a laughing matter. So how about y'all?
I mean, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add past that. I mean, it was a long answer, but it was good. So yeah, it was good.
Thanks.
I don't mean
Man, you just tapped into her insecurity.
I know, right? Yeah. No, I mean CrossFit.
Here, I'm unzipping.
Yes.
Come to me.
Don't take my thing.
I think when you
Know it's your thing.
when you do something hard, and there are a lot of exercise programs that are hard, so it's not just CrossFit that's hard. And don't anybody's watching this that doesn't do CrossFit. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of hard things that you do.
It's just what we do.
It's just what we do. So, I think when you know that it's uncomfortable and it's horrible in the moment and it feels bad, and it doesn't. I've never come into a workout and been halfway through and go, oh, you know what, man, I feel invincible and 10 foot tall and bulletproof. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm dying, the world's ending, and I can't breathe, and I'm going to die if I keep going. And but you get through that and you realize that that gives you an idea, and not that it's real. It's not real suffering, right? I mean, it's, in the grand scheme of what suffering really is, it's not. But it gives you an idea to say, okay, that hurt. Now I can go read that book that I've got to read, because that's not going to hurt as bad. It may be a little boring sometimes, but it's not going to hurt me. Like, I just put myself through a 30-minute workout that hurt, right? Or I, did something with a barbell yesterday, 2 days ago, and it really physically hurt me, and it's continuing to hurt me. So, okay, I can do whatever I need to do now, because it can't hurt as bad as what I just did, right? I mean, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Not as a good answer as
I think that's a really good answer because it was short. No. So
poor Brooke.
It's fine. I'm sitting in the discomfort. That's what I'm doing.
Thanks for being a good sport. I was thinking about how CrossFit expands your capacity for pain, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so it really is like a muscle being broken down and built back up. But why are you laughing? Because we're talking about people's pain.
I'll let you finish, and then I'm gonna tell you something that happened the other day at the gym.
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, talk to me.
Talking about pain, what happened the other day at the gym? One of our members decided to
I don't even know what he's talking about right now.
But
the not knowing what BDSM was.
Oh gosh.
Sorry. We lead shelter lives. What was the question? I forgot the question of the day.
What do you do to alleviate stress?
Oh.
That was yes. And y'all know I'm a little naive about some things. Some things not so much, but some things I'm a little naive about. Well,
We probably
I didn't know what that was.
That was somebody's answer?
Yes. The answer was 3 different things. One was
it doesn't matter.
and
what
the
other
other 2
ones are.
don't
Yeah.
matter. But 2 of them I didn't know what they were. And he finally
He,
they.
Them?
Oh no.
them.
Oh
Them.
no.
Tell me what them did. Because that's good grammar.
So finally I said, what? And then I said, what again? And they finally just looked at me and said, sex. I was like, okay. And so then I was like, oh, I kind of get it. I know what S&M means now, but I still didn't. I had to ask somebody else in the next class what the BD part stood for.
So sorry, when you're talking about CrossFit and pain, it all kind of tied in together to me.
I didn't know.
Is that your answer, Vanessa,
What?
to this question?
Yes.
About
No, that was Charles's answer.
Brooke's like, she's appalled.
I mean, no, my answer to the question about how CrossFit has helped me grow is pretty much 100% opposite of Brooke's. My answer, I have grown, well, I feel like I have. I hope I have. I feel like I have grown much more in the area of a supporting role for people, whether that's coaching, being empathetic in my coaching, realizing that a lot of the people that stand in front of me and are trying to learn to do things that they've never done before have had very different experiences than I have most of the time leading up to that point. And instead of just repeating the same thing over and over and over again and hoping it clicks, trying to figure out ways to help them. Mm-hmm. You guys know I'm really not a very competitive person. So pushing myself through a workout that's really painful, unless I have a partner that I'm supporting, I'm just probably not. I'm going to shush you instead. But I think as a coach or a teacher or whatever, I think it has helped me grow in that way, because when I am successful helping somebody achieve their goals, that does make me very happy. And I might be uncomfortable trying to figure out what's going to work, trying to get to that point, having to ask what BDSM means.
I train wrecked this one. Sorry.
But once
It's all your fault.
once the other person is successful, I'm very proud of them, and so
Because
it's pretty much 100% opposite.
But on your own, you're not really afraid to try new things. You'll try just about anything I've watched you with this level of confidence step into sure, I'll give it a try. And off you go. I'm like, wow. I'm over here going, maybe, no, not till somebody pushes me off the cliff am I going to really try. So
it's part of why I signed up for the same competition, because I knew that it would help you to do the same.
So I can see where being supportive would maybe be the place where would be more likely to be uncomfortable than actually trying something yourself for you.
Yes.
Because I didn't really care about doing that competition, so I can relate to what she's talking about. Now, you've always been very supportive, because I remember when I first came into CrossFit and you weren't a coach yet, you would be outside clapping for people very enthusiastically. And I liked it. You know, I'm like, okay, this is fun. And so you brought that to the table, and I don't think you even realized it because you were just being you. It's part of what made me like to come back, because it's like, okay, when I go here, it's going to be encouraging. Like, it's not going to be, oh, well, yeah, you showed up at the gym. Good job. But it was like, okay, this is fun, and we need to try. We need to.
That's not true.
You bring something completely different. I mean, it's we don't need two Vanessas.
No.
Right?
Nope.
I mean, you keep people on track.
I love you, but we don't need if there were two of us in this house the same way.
Well, she doesn't want you to be heard, but that was too
No.
adamant. That was too adamant. The no's were just too strong. Too strong.
How about you?
So my answer, as I was processing this question, had a lot to do with you again, because I remember videos of you trying to do a pull-up. And it's like,
There's some great videos of me.
because people are like, oh, she's so cute.
Look at her trying so hard.
And now it's hilarious, because I'll look over, we'll be in the gym, and you'll be up on the ring, and you'll be like pulling yourself up. And then it's like, whoosh. And I mean, you're not kipping. It's a strict ring muscle up, which there's not too many people in the population doing strict ring muscle ups. And so you went from like this cute novelty to now like this little beast. And so as I think about like CrossFit, for me, there's been certainly, I've enjoyed a lot of the physical changes. I've enjoyed being healthy. People thinking I'm younger than I am, like, and those are kind of vain. Well, not the health part, but people thinking I'm younger than I am is a little bit vain, but I like it.
Yeah.
Just being straight up. I like the fact that I'll probably live longer in a higher quality of life, because me falling down, which I fell on the stairs a couple months ago, that's not really impressive, but I was fine, because I have muscle. And a lot of times as you get older, people break a bone, they fall down, just part of it. And it diminishes their ability to live a long life and a quality life. So I think about that for me, but for you, just watching the change it's been extraordinary. So,
it goes back to really a bigger thing, talking about comfort and how does comfort hinder you, and how it's a trap. And you think about any exercise program, and the reason that people are like they are, right? Staying comfortable means I don't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, get out of bed when I'm tired. Staying comfortable means I don't have to go push myself. Staying comfortable means I don't have to go sweat. I don't have to, do these things that are hard. But you think about really how much of a trap that actually is, and you're going to die at some point, and we're all going to die, but you're, potentially going to die of, heart disease or hypertension, or you're going to have a stroke, or you're going to do, and staying comfortable makes you say, okay, I don't need to do all that, and I'm comfortable. But instead of saying I'm going to be uncomfortable for an hour today, and knowing that later on I can be comfortable because I'm not going to be in the hospital on 5,000 machines and needles stuck all in me trying to save my life, when I could have been uncomfortable for an hour every day for the last 10 years, but now I'm where I am. So talk about a trap, right? I mean, that's the ultimate to me. And it just came to me when you're talking. I was like, this is the ultimate comfort trap. And it's any sort of exercise program, not just CrossFit, but any exercise, or eating correctly, or spiritual discipline, or like, it's all the same thing. How are you just staying right where you're at? Really going to benefit you long term, and it's not, right? Especially from the workout standpoint, to me, like that's the ultimate. Like you can't, and eating, those two things alone. Like I don't want to cook my own food. I don't want to eat healthy. I would just rather eat, some Little Debbie's. Well, yeah, so would I. I mean, I tried to get some Little Debbie's today when we were at the grocery store. They have their pumpkin spice rolls out right now. Oh,
That
those are
sound
good. Oh, they're great. But
Yeah, they are good.
they're good.
Sorry, they're good.
But like that would be comfortable. But later on, in one pumpkin spice roll is not going to make me, die today. It might, I don't know. But, getting into that comfort cycle of eating whatever I want all the time is going to push me into a direction that I'm not going to be comfortable when I'm later on in life. And that's, if people just if they could project and say, okay, where am I going to be here and where am I going to be here? If I'm going to stay comfortable right now in my mind, I'm going to end up here, but I'm not going to be uncomfortable for a little bit. But look at how much better I'm going to be when I'm 70 or I'm 80 when I'm 90. And I get that some people still wouldn't choose to be uncomfortable. I understand that. But I think the majority of the population, if you could actually project out and see what it would do or how you would feel, you would choose to be uncomfortable today for an hour.
So to your point about all that, you're choosing to be uncomfortable actually makes you more comfortable. And it enhances your ability to be able to manage the discomfort.
Yep.
Because your capacity for pain has been expanded.
Yeah.
That's a strong message. I would say
It's in the bag.
It's in the bag.
it's in the bag. So a couple more questions and we'll wrap up our time. Can you guys think of a story? We know we just kind of talked about some stories, but where you put yourself out there and it led to growth or something maybe you wouldn't have experienced otherwise. And I'm going to go more on that end of the table because I feel like you shared a great story and I was kind of tagging in with that. But have you put yourself out there before and you look back and you're like, wow, that really led to big time growth for me?
You go.
Oh, I've got a lot of stories, but go
Go.
ahead.
No, you go.
You go ahead. You go ahead. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
No, you go first.
The time that stands out the most to me, again, I'm going back to dogs and dog training. It was a big part of my life for a long time.
I keep thinking about who let the dogs out.
And
Not
there's your song reference today.
There's been multiples, but I've held back.
The first time I ever did a canine specific workshop in a police department, never having been a law enforcement officer, I was in my 20s. I was in my early 20s, and I was educating all of these law enforcement officers on how to handle their dogs in a law enforcement capacity. I was so nervous that first day. I was so nervous. That was bad. I remember going to pick up a cup of coffee and thinking, I'm not going
Really?
to make this to my face. It was bad. I was very nervous. But it opened up a lot of doors for me. Selling dogs to that department, other departments, based on that department's recommendation of me. But yeah, I felt I think the thing that made me the most nervous is I really was unsure whether or not they would take me seriously. I knew what I was doing and I knew I could do the job, but I was a skinny, long-haired,
Early 20-something
early
female.
20-something female with no law enforcement experience.
Yeah.
But I made it through. So
You did. You did good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now you tell your story.
So there's a lot of things I could say over the last, 6 years. But I think the story, the experience of putting myself out there that really led to where we are today, right? Even at this table, was, and we've referenced this in multiple podcasts, but coming back to you and saying, hey, I can't serve in setup and teardown. What do I do? And you going, hey, I think you're going to be with kids. And I'm like, nope, not a good idea. I think this is a really bad idea, as a matter of fact. I remember having conversations about that going, this is going to be really bad.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. But it, had I not been stretched and pushed and pulled and, all of that, I wouldn't have ended up understanding the calling that was there. I wouldn't have felt a calling, and I would have been comfortable, right? Probably, I'm sure God would have spoken to me in a different way to hit me in the head at some point. But that's how He chose to communicate then, and it's led to working for the church and doing things and sacrificing as a family and personally and going to school, going to seminary and doing all the things that I wouldn't have done had that one decision or one catalytic moment happened. You know what I mean? And God did that. I mean, with your help, but the minute I stepped foot in that environment, I was like, oh, this is okay. I get it. But I wouldn't have known that. And I wouldn't have been stretched, and I'm still stretched now. Even now, we just launched a new ministry, and every day I'm stretched. They're thinking and deciding. And there's a really good email that came across this week from Carrie Newhoff. I don't know if you read it, but anyway, it references some of that, and not my experience, but just in that general realm of putting yourself out there and taking chances and risk. And I think every day I'm being challenged because of that one decision and growth that's come of that. Yeah,
it's really good. I was thinking about how a lot of times when we're on the precipice of something big, we could either choose comfort or choose discomfort. And there usually is a clear, compelling road for comfort when really you should be choosing the road that's uncomfortable and more unknown, because we find this false sense of comfort in the known, and it may be real on some level, but especially when it comes to making like a decision you're talking about. It made me think about the past years ago, give or take, when I asked Brooke out. Like, what happens if I don't do that? Because asking someone out it's risky. They could say no. And then you have a decision to make from there. You could shrink back. You can rise up, not like in a stalker kind of way. But she didn't say no.
Yep.
And I'm glad I asked. I remember the time I was asked to speak for student ministry before I was a student minister, when I was a volunteer. And it's like, why don't you do the announcements today? And that was thrown on me at the last minute. Like, I'm talking about, here,
do this.
I'd never done it before. And I'm like, what the heck? Okay. And the guy who did it, his name is Stephen Kendrick, and he believed in me. And that's what I had to remember. And God was with me. And so that was a big thing. I also thought about most recently starting Connection Valley Church. There were a lot of thoughts that I had about what would be more comfortable, especially when another church locally said, we'd really like you to consider a position I'd done before. And looking back on it, was a very strong possibility. And yet having to tell them no and saying, no, I'm supposed to do this, knowing that some people wouldn't understand, would critique it, would come against me, not understanding it, which, if you think about it in one sense, is really kind of sick. Think about what we're trying to do, but it's just a reality we live in. Yeah. And we shouldn't be surprised when we have opposition toward doing something that's uncomfortable. I think we should probably expect it. So I really like that question, because there's probably a lot of stories that people have that are listening, that if you're listening right now or watching, you probably can think of some stories where, had you not chosen the road of discomfort and being uncomfortable, that a lot of the best things in your life wouldn't be right now.
Yep. Totally agree.
So I have a question of application, and it speaks to where we are today. Where do you need to be courageous right now?
Thank you for that, because otherwise this is going to be a really boring podcast.
A long, drawn out pause. Well, the first thing that pops into my mind, I think, with where we are as a church and leading in the family ministries area, for me, is an area where courage is needed. Not because, the team is amazing. I love the team that I get to work with, and hanging out with them is great. They are both very smart and driven in their own ways. And
you're talking about the staff team.
Yes, the staff team. And even the volunteers. There are some very sharp volunteers that show up every week, and they have great questions, and they want to be part of growing the ministry and all of those things. While I love it and it's energizing, it also, their excitement and their smartness and their giftedness also serves as a reminder that I've never done this before, and I'm not really sure what the next step needs to be all the time. And then people are looking at me going, okay, so what are we going to do? And I'm like, I'm not sure exactly. What do you think we should do? I am more collaborative by nature anyway, so I do defer a lot, and I think that that's fine. But having the courage to speak up and say, this is really what I think we need to do, or this is the direction that I feel that we need to go, all of that is very, I don't want to use the word intimidating, but that's the word that comes to my mind. It's a little intimidating just because I haven't done it before, and I don't want to mess it up, because I don't want to mess it up for other people, not for myself, it's not a, oh, look at her, she screwed the whole thing up. I really don't want to mess it up for the people that are looking to us to help them in the areas of parenting and their marriages and what to do with their kids. Like, I want to be a support for those families, and I want to get it right because I think it matters. So that would be my answer. That's where I need to be courageous. Done.
She's enjoying us all six eyeballs.
Six eyeballs,
Yeah.
right?
Not all six of us. There's
Three of you.
Yeah, I didn't know where she was going with that earlier. I'm like, 1, 2, what? Yeah, okay, get it.
Yeah, I was trying to use your sixth eyeball, but it didn't work out well. How about you, Charles?
I thought about this really hard, and I feel like right now I've been pretty courageous about everything I'm doing. The one thing that I would probably say of anything is I just need to be courageous when it comes to trust. So, and not trusting God, but trusting people around me. I think my life operates better when I trust people around me, at least the people that are closest to me. There needs to be a little bit more of a blind trust, I think, on my part, instead of being a little bit skeptical at times. And I'm not, I normally trust you guys very well, but there are times that it would benefit me and all of us if I just said, okay, and just not question anything else.
You've grown in that area. I've seen it.
It's not where it needs to be yet, but yeah.
You're not expected to be perfect.
Yeah. So that's really the only, I feel like I'm pushing myself in almost every direction. So that's the one I could probably get better at.
It's good.
Yeah.
And you, Vanessa?
Saying no.
So where do you need to say no right now?
That was the broad, easy answer. It's kind of tied up into implementation, where Brooke feels a need to be more courageous with vision at work. I feel the need to be more courageous with implementation, setting expectations and holding people accountable for meeting those expectations. And I am including myself in that statement. And in order to do that effectively, I think I also have to be comfortable saying no to other things elsewhere. even things as small as, do you want to go get lunch? No, I don't. I have other things I have to do.
You're like, yes and no.
Right.
Yes, because it sounds fun.
Right.
No, because I see down the road that it's not going to be so fun.
Right. And I only have so many hours in the day. Same as everybody else.
It's true.
So
Okay, good to know.
I'm not trying to be any kind of way. I'm just...
What she's not saying is she still wants you to ask her to lunch. Just what she wants is...
We just don't get a lot of time to do it. There's not a lot of time anymore. Because when I'm at home, I'm busy. And
Right.
she's like, when she's home, it's for a brief second. So we really don't spend a lot of time with each other right now.
I feel like
Other than the gym.
there's a lot of time that we are in the same place. But that does not mean that we are together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So one of the things that we've done for years is a weekly date night. For the exact reasons you speak of.
That's STAHHHHHHHP. Stop.
Oh. I'm like, what?
Wow. Okay. So I answered as I was processing. There were two things actually now have come to mind. The first one is I've gone back to graduate school to finish my master's. I started years ago. Charles, you've been partly catalytic in that your pursuit of education has kind of kept it in front of me because you've been like Rodney Dangerfield for
the last 4 years.
You've been back to school in it for a while. Yeah. But this is probably, I've been back in for a week, and the first couple of days did create some apprehension, and you guys all felt it.
Yep.
Once I kind of got past that, I've been able to settle in and go, okay, I don't have to be perfect. Something I'm constantly having to remind myself of. And I'm probably at a place where, practically speaking, it's more useful than it's ever been. So while I probably won't love everything I do, I'm excited about finishing something I started, but it is creating some discomfort, and it's requiring courage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would say the other thing is engaging my kids when they don't want to engage with me, because it makes me feel pretty bad. Like I can get upset pretty easily about that. But I don't want to give up, because there's something inside of me that goes, well, you got a lot of other people that want to talk to you, so you're good. And that's a terrible way to think.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to be connected to them, and they're always going to be connected to me. And I need to be willing to sacrifice on their behalf and go the extra mile. Jesus was willing to go the extra mile. I think about like the walk to Emmaus. I want to have that kind of mindset. So also came from my class this past week. Hey, school. Yeah, it integrates with my life. So the last question I want to ask y'all today, unless I get inspired in some other way, is, do you have anything or anyone who inspires you to be courageous? And if yes, what or who? And this can be quotes, scriptures, music, art, another story, and or people or a person. Brooke.
Good grief. Well, all of you at this table. I'm going to cry again. Somebody else might need to go. All of you at this table inspire me to be courageous. So, my kids do. You guys do. I'm thankful for y'all. So, I didn't mean to cry. That surprised me. So, yeah. That's it. And there were some verses that I thought of. I'm just going to move right on. A couple of verses that came to mind in processing this. James 1, verses 2 through 4. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy, for you know that when your faith is tested and your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. So that whole idea that in endurance and growing and all of that happens, and that testing and trials are good opportunities for growth. So that was one thing that verse comes to mind a lot when facing things that are challenging. And then Isaiah 43:2 is the other verse that comes to mind a lot. When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you. So those are the things. It is someone else's turn today.
You have 6 eyeballs on you. And countless more.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how many more on this
right. Thousands.
I mean, at least 10.
one. The title of this podcast is just going to be Brooke Cries. Watch.
Clickbait.
A
That's not really
million
clickbait.
views.
That's not really clickbait. People see that all the time.
Go ahead.
Okay, so why do you do this to me?
She's making you get in touch with your emotions.
No,
And
okay.
Vanessa cry.
No,
Watch.
I'm not. Okay,
She's resisting.
I am choking it back. Okay, so yes, all of you at this table, I concur with that. And now I'm going to completely sidetrack everything, and I'm going to go back. When I first thought about this question, I remembered a time when, and I don't even know this person's name, but I remember a time I was a very young girl, probably 12, 13-ish, and I went into the drugstore with my mom. I don't even remember what we were going to buy. But we went to check out, and the girl behind the counter, I'm going to date myself. So this is like the tetracycline products were probably in infancy in this time period. And the girl behind the counter was covered in acne. And I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Her pimples had pimples, and it was... her whole face was just swollen and just covered in acne. And I remember not being horrified or mortified or anything. I remember respecting her so much for having, and now I'm going to cry about this woman I don't even know, but having the courage to work in customer service, knowing that she was going to encounter people who would be horrified or mortified or whatever by her appearance. And she smiled and told us to have a nice day. And I remember we walked out to the car, and my mom said, "Thank you for not staring at her." And I said I wanted to, because I'm amazed that she is doing what she's doing, you know, not for anything bad. But anyway, I was kind of inspired to, as it's just a random story that came to my mind when I thought of it. But she was very courageous, I thought. Very courageous. Now it probably wouldn't be a big deal. They'd just give her the right medication and
Put a mask
I
on
don't
and
see
she'll
that.
be fine.
Yeah. I don't see people
Yeah.
with that.
No, you don't.
Kind of
not
condition.
anymore.
You don't.
Not like you used to. Mm-mm. Nope. It is kind of crazy, though, when you think about it.
so. And also right now, Julie Jackson.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
those of you that don't know Julie, she's great. She's been battling breast cancer for quite a while now, but she still comes to the gym when she can, and she smiles and she hugs everybody, and she's quite an inspiration of courage. Yep. And now I'm done because I might cry again.
Fly me courageous.
Oh gosh.
D and C. Nice. I like it.
You don't even know what I'm talking about.
And
She's there.
you went to the concert, and we did hear the song.
Courageous.
I was taking so many other things in that experience.
What, the 40-something frat guys?
Yes.
Reliving their early 20s?
They're still in their comfort zone.
Yes, they are.
That was cartoonish.
Yes, it was. It's a great show, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm up. All right.
You're up.
So I'm going to go with the can't answer for one, but Jesus. And it's really not a can't answer, but one that people would probably expect. But for me, that stands out. My parents, my kid, you guys, there's, no shock that that's kind of a common theme at this table. All three of you, in a different way, inspire me to do things that I never would expect to do. So thank you for that as well. I'm not going to cry.
Charles cries. Watch.
It doesn't take much. All of you have seen me cry before. But the man in the arena, so I go back to the Teddy Roosevelt, that to me is very inspiring to be courageous and makes me just say, it doesn't matter what people think. All that matters is what I'm doing and what we're doing together. And then I go back to, in a different way, but Hebrews 12:11, discipline at the time isn't pleasant but painful, but later on that produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who've been trained by it. I had that tattooed on me for a lot of reasons over the years, and discipline is really no different than comfort, because it's not comfortable to be disciplined ever. No one ever looks at that and says, that's exciting. But I think, kind of going back to everybody's conversation later on, what is that going to put you, and are you going to be comfortable with that, when you're 70? And I would hope I am, at least able to play with Parker or his grandkids at that point, or my grandkids, not his grandkids at that point. But, and I go back to the story, even though it doesn't end this way, but go back to the story of Jonah, right? I mean, he's forced to be uncomfortable. He gets swallowed up and is made to change his ways. And that to me, although, again, doesn't finish that way, it goes back to say, okay, I've got to be uncomfortable to see what God wants me to do, and hopefully that gives me comfort. It gets me out of the fish's belly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So a lot of what inspired me to do this podcast was a conversation I had with somebody that knew we did the competition, that we did the CrossFit competition in Clemens a few weeks ago. And they basically said they would never do that. Like, they were inspired by us, but they're like, I would never put myself out there. And I started asking myself the questions, like, why would they not want to put themselves out there? And they're afraid of all the things we talked about: exposure, failure, what other people would think, not being impressive. And that's kind of what sparked me to want to do this, because to me, while comfort is not a trap, that is a trap. And maybe just kind of connecting the dots here, it's the fear that's the trap from us being able to be who God made us to be, and to step into the greatness He really made us for, because we're made in His image. Like, think about that for a second. We're made in the image of God. Like, He made all this out here. And when we talk about being outside at night, looking up in the sky and watching the sky sparkle, He put that into motion. And then we look across the table at each other, and He put you into motion. He made you the way you are, distinctly the way you are, for a purpose and a reason. For me, that gets me fired up. And so I wanted to mention that before I actually answer this question, but I definitely have been inspired by you guys. And I would say the biggest part of that inspiration for me personally is the belief that you believe in me. That's extremely motivating, because you want to, when someone believes in you, you don't want to let them down. You want to come through for them. And I can look back at other people who have believed in me, but I'm definitely sitting here at this table. It inspires me to want to be courageous. And I read a paragraph from Dr. James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, which, by the way, Brooke hates, but it's a good book.
I don't hate the book, James Clear, if you're listening. It's a fine book. I just struggle with positive habits. It's my failure.
You said it. No, I'm just kidding. So he said this: the list of mistakes you can never recover from is very short. But you likely realize your life will not be destroyed if your book doesn't sell, or if a potential date turns you down, or if your startup goes bust. It's not the failed outcome that paralyzes us. It's the possibility of looking stupid, feeling humiliated, or dealing with an embarrassment that prevents us from getting started at all. The first step to being courageous is being willing to look foolish. So here's to being willing to look foolish. A couple of scriptures I want to end with, and then we'll close out our time. Joshua 1:9. Mike and I talked about this on the phone yesterday. Be strong and courageous. This is what the Lord has commanded Joshua specifically, but I think this applies to us. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you. And that is the key. He'll be with you wherever you go. And then I think about Jesus saying, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I've overcome the world. And then I think about Paul, who was the greatest Christian missionary of all time, who was more courageous than probably anyone will ever meet or know. Said, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So, any final words before we land our time? All right. Well, thank you for taking your time to engage the F4 podcast today. We invite you to follow us on social media, like and share the podcast. If you think this can be helpful to you or entertaining for you and other people, we would love your specific feedback so we can get better in providing content that is helpful for you and other people. So thank you again for listening, and we look forward to being with you soon, again here on the F4 podcast.